Man, don't we all just miss Robin Williams? So Aladdin is another one of Disney's live-action remakes. We've had Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, The Jungle Book. Most recently we had Tim Burton's adaptation of Dumbo, which was extremely depressing. And now we have Aladdin. And so I'm sure most of you already know the story about Aladdin, but if you don't already know, it follows a thief who falls in love with a princess because the princess is only allowed to marry a prince, which he obviously is not. And so circumstances lead to Aladdin getting his hands on the lamp, yada yada yada. You guys know the story, I don't have to break it down for you. And so now in this remake, the genie, who was originally played by Robin Williams, is now played by Will Smith. And I still stand by what I said. Out of all the actors in Hollywood, I think Will Smith was definitely the best choice to play the genie. You really need someone who's going to bring charisma to the genie without making it a knockoff of Robin Williams. And Will Smith did it. But there was a few problems. But as I like to do, let's talk about the good first. The cinematography, the colours, the atmosphere, all of that was excellent. They actually filmed on location for a lot of the movie, which I thought really did pay off in the long run. You could really feel in the atmosphere and in the characters that they were really out in the desert. Plus the CGI now has just become an industry standard, that a lot of movies now just use CGI and you can't even tell, which is clearly the best use of CGI. Naomi Scott as Princess Jasmine, I really liked her character. Not only is she extremely beautiful, but she also brings that good balance of assertion and empathy, without being whiny or too overdramatic, which is a fine line to play, and so she played that balance really well. Marwan Kanzari, I'm sorry, I 100% know I'm probably butchering this name, so I apologise. But it comes with some positivity. I thought he played a compelling Jafar. He was a different Jafar because he wasn't the old creepy guy like in the animated movie. And yes, he was over the top, and yes, he overperformed quite a bit, but it really did fit into the context of the movie that they were creating. And he did make a compelling villain, although he didn't actually have a lot to do. But don't worry, we'll get to that in the bad. I felt the film had really good pacing, and as I thought, Will Smith made a pretty good genie. He was Will Smith, granted. He didn't bring any layers or new depth to the character, but it's kind of what you want out of the genie. You want Will Smith's charisma, because you want Will Smith's charisma. His rapping, really good. I mean, Fresh Prince, really good. But his singing, probably could have given that a miss. And so this isn't really a criticism yet, it's more of just a missed opportunity. But in the original one with Robin Williams' genie made a lot of pop culture references, you know, with the Jack Nicholson and things like that. And Will Smith being who he is very kind of embedded into the pop culture with things like The Fresh Prince, his rapping career, Men in Black, Independence Day. He's just been involved in a lot of pop culture things, and him himself is kind of a pop culture phenomenon. And from the original film, which did have a lot of self-referential, fourth wall breaking kind of things, it is kind of sad that they didn't really have too much of that in this movie, because I feel like Will Smith really could have brought something extra to that. They kind of dipped their toe in it a little bit, but not enough that I call it that they delved into pop culture references. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so let's talk about the things I didn't quite like. So the film, I felt, and yes, it is subjective, but I just felt that they didn't bring that Disney magic that they bring to a lot of their films. And I do kind of feel like they haven't been bringing that to their live action films. And it may, to be honest, and again, this is just my opinion, but it might be that the medium that they're shooting, and now that they're in live action rather than 2D, just doesn't have that click, you know, that really makes that wonder, or I can't even think of the word, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't have that thing to it. And a perfect example is in the first scene, and I'm not giving anything away, but in the first scene, you could really just tell from the first scene that they were trying to make that magic and wonder and mystical element, but it just wasn't quite connecting with me. It was more of a eye roller of, alright, I can see what you're doing, but you're not really pulling it off. And well, I guess that's really just the big flaw for me, which does have a huge impact. The script was fine, the acting was pretty good, the pacing was good, the cinematography was great. There was nothing like a lot of movies where you can point out and go, well, that had horrible pacing, that had corny dialogue, or that had this, or it had that. None of that. I guess, to be honest, Disney has just set such a high standard for their original 2D animation films that the live action movies do have high standards for me, and I'm sure they do for a lot of people. And I'm not sure as well if we're adding in the nostalgia fact that when we're a kid, we enjoyed watching them and it's just not the same feel. But that's just how I feel about the film. And I also wasn't a huge fan of Mena Massoud, this guy right here. He had a lot of charisma and he was acting great. He wasn't bad, I just didn't think he was on par with Will Smith. And seeing that he was the lead, I mean, I guess it is hard to outperform Will Smith. They did have really good chemistry though. Lastly, let's talk about the music in the film. And yes, this is probably my fault, but I didn't realize that it was going to be pretty much a musical for the whole film. Some of the musical scenes were excellent, like You've Never Had a Friend Like Me with Will Smith, or Speechless that Princess Jasmine sings in the film. Those were probably the highlights of the songs. A couple of the other songs just didn't land for me, I guess. And also, a lot of the musical scenes were weirdly done. When you're kind of singing and moving, you know, in real time, you can tell. But in Aladdin, when they were doing it, the mouthing was going regular, but they were kind of all moving in fast forward like it was on some weird TikTok filter. That was just a bit off-putting for me, because I don't know why they did it. And then lastly, the climax was not very good. There wasn't really much of a climax. It was almost like, the Guy Ritchie, the director, does tend to do this in a lot of his films, where he just kind of rushes to the end and really wraps up the climax quite quickly. Whereas in the original Aladdin, and yes, I do keep comparing it to it because it's a remake of a movie, so you do kind of have to compare it, unless they take it in a completely different direction. But in the original Aladdin, they had stakes, you know? Princess Jasmine was stuck in the hourglass sand thing, and there was real stakes to really get it happening. Whereas in this one, there wasn't really anything. Jafar made his master plan speech, and, well, I can't really say any more, but nothing really happened. And it kind of bummed me out a little bit, to be honest. So overall, it's a Disney film, it's a live-action remake. It doesn't matter what I say about the film, you're probably going to go see it anyway. And it's an alright family movie. It's not a kids movie, can I also say. It's not a movie that only kids would like. It's definitely a family movie, because family movies are different to kids movies. But I guess it just kind of makes me more cautious with The Lion King and what they do with that. And they may all be good, but they may just never be as good as the originals. And again, just my opinion. But the main thing I took out of this movie was man, I miss Robin Williams, you know? You just can't replicate him. And in this one, you can definitely tell that magic of Robin Williams isn't there. And I also miss the art of 2D animation, you know? I understand why it's not here anymore. It's just like DVDs, it's going, and they probably won't, it'll probably be a rarity if we get to see a 2D animation film again. But I do miss seeing them. But hey, it was a good time. For my enjoyment of it, I probably rated a 5. It was meh. It was alright. And as for the quality of the film, probably about a 6 to a 7. It was good, but nothing blew me away. So if you like this video, make sure you give me an old like down below. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications if you want to stay up to date to all this cool content I'm creating. We've got movie reviews, vlogs, and also don't forget we've got coming up my next look forward, which is going to look at all the movies that are coming out in June. I'm going to talk about why I'm excited for them. And it's going to be in a nice little package video just for you. And if you want more movie news and just things that are going on in my life, make sure you follow me on Instagram at melorofficial, just down below. And as always, guys, work hard and be lucky.